That's what. No, because it's interesting because you can see like it's reading, but it's not sounding. I was like,
I
I
got my stuff
but
ready.
I'll, also, if at any point you're hearing something, just tell me.
Okay.
Or
My
thankfully,
problem too with this is that these get bumped all the time, so I can never keep it consistent.
the truth is though, it's always low enough anyway, so it's very rarely going to be an issue. But like,
I'm just gonna see if I can find my little switcher, my foot pedal.
Sure.
It's so much better if I have it.
yeah, is it in my office?
I don't know.
Okay, well, you'll find it. Either you'll find it or you won't find it. I love choices like that, right? Either it'll have it or it won't have it. Can breathe. Whew. Is there anything I can? You want to use? You don't really like those? Yes, do this. So, yes, that's a thing. have to, you know, it's like okay to
Lead, I like it.
works.
Just keep as much consistency as possible.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. All right.
makes one of us.
That makes one of us. That's it. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So, just going to ask everyone to find their seats as best as we can. Say that again? Oh, no, it's working. It's just once... A lot of sounds in the room. It'll give it a second, but thank you, though. Always good to know feedback from the crowd. Very important. Okay, let's turn that off there. Okay, again, Shabbat Shalom to everyone, and especially to our guests who are joining us this weekend for various reasons. This is one of those great times where there's a lot of wonderful things happening at the same time. And the first is to acknowledge where's Mort? There he is. You know what? Mort is probably the easiest guy to find in the room generally, because he's almost always the tallest person in the room. For those that don't know Mort Spitzer, I met Mort shortly after coming here to Temple Adas Israel, pretty soon after, to be asked to participate in one of the more meaningful moments in my rabbinate, to name this wonderful, beautiful child sitting in the front row here. So we named you Raphael Shalom, goes by Rafi more these days, and remind me again your friend who you brought with you. Samantha as well. So Rafi, you won't remember this because you're too little to remember it, but when I walked into that room, normally when you go to a baby naming, a lot of times, maybe 10 people, maybe 15 people, I walked in, I think the entire neighborhood, everybody was there. And at first, as a young rabbi, I was a little intimidated by it, right? Because it's a whole room full of people and I knew almost nobody. But then I saw you. I saw this beautiful child, loving parents, and this incredible community of friends and family who all came there to bless you. So to be a part of that, especially very early on in being a rabbi, I have to tell you, Rafi, whether you realize it or not, you had a very big impact on what I at least think I am today. And it really is just a special privilege to welcome you up with your parents, Jordana and Matthew, who are going to help us too. Jordana, you look a little surprised by it, but don't worry, come on up. Yes, don't worry. You're just going to come right up here to help us to light and bless our Shabbat candles. That's on page 120. Okay, so come on over. I'll help you out. Okay. Now, maybe one of you guys can help with the torch piece of it, or I can help with that. What do you think? Yeah, how about I'll help that?
Oh, great.
Yeah. The more important piece, I think, in general, is the blessed piece.
There we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehalek shel Shabbat.
Amen. All right. Robbie, can I get a hug? Amazing. Thank you you have no idea what a treat that is, Johanna. It's great to see you. Welcome back. Thank you. Also, very cool shoes for anybody who's in the... Look, my daughter is going to need to know about these, I assure you. So the other wonderful thing happening this weekend is that we are privileged to welcome our friends from the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion and Dr. Andrew Rayfeld, who will deliver the sermon in just a little bit. But for now, student cantor Kevin's going to help us to get started with our service, which is on page 130. Page 130.
Lechu neranena, yai rai 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 rai, Ladonai, yai rai 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 rai, Naria, yai rai 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 rai, B'tzur Yisheinu, yai rai 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 rai, Nikat mafana b'toda, bizmirot,
We're now on page 131.
ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים ומלואו. יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים ומלואו. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ.
We're now on page 132, or Zarua, which is just towards the bottom of the page in Hebrew.
Or Zarua LaTzadik u'yishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua LaTzadik u'yishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua LaTzadik u'yishrei lev simcha. U'yishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua LaTzadik u'yishrei lev simcha. U'yishrei lev simcha. Ya la la, ya la, ya la, la la, ya la, ya la, ya la, ya la la, ya la, ya la, ya la, ya la, ya la.
We're going to turn now to page 134, the very top of the page.
Zamru l'Adonai v'chinor, v'chinor v'kol zimra, v'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, yiram hayam u'melo, tevel v'yoshvei. וכף יחד הרים ירננו לפני אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ, לשפוט תבל בצדק ועמים במישרים. יירם הים ומלואו, תבל ויושביו, נהרות עמך וכף יחד הרים ירננו.
We'll turn now to page 135, Romamu, which is the last Hebrew paragraph just in the middle of the page.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי להר קודשו.
As we turn to Lachado D on page 138, I feel with the number of guests in the room, probably to explain one of our customs here at the temple, which is by the time we get to the final stanza of Lachado D, there are 9 paragraphs total. After the 9th of them, a certain amount of what used to be spontaneous dancing and now is sort of customary dancing takes place. You are under no obligation to dance yourself, but I'm just going to tell you, it's kind of fun. And maybe, Rafi, you can help us to lead. Are you a dancer, Rafi? You like dancing? Good. You're going to be our leader, okay? So just pay attention. Everybody starts dancing. You follow. Good? Good. Page 138, Lachado D.
דודי לקראת קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד ישמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו לתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה הוא יחמול עלייך חמלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה תנערי מעפר קומי רגשי בגדי תפטרתך עמי על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי קרבה אל נפשי גאלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ירדאי 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 פני שבת נקבלה דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך ומאורי אורי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לא תבושי ולא תקבעי מה תשתוכחי ומה תמי בך יחסו עניי עמי ונפתח עיר עתילה לך דודי לקראת קלה שבת מקבלה והיו למשיסה שוסי פרחקו כל מבלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כמסוס חתן על כלה לקראת דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת מקבלה לקראת דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת מקבלה ימין ושמאל תפרוצי בעת אדוני תעריצי על יד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לקראת דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת מקבלה לקראת דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת מקבלה בואי ושלום עצרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לקראת דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת מקבלה לקראת דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת מקבלה יאי די יאי די יאי די יאי די יאי
Very nice. All right, please be seated.
Provocative and it gets the people going.
Love it. Just love it. Ravi, thank you for your leadership. Okay, very important. The Jewish people are nothing without leaders. That is what we're here to celebrate tonight. I'll just make an early pitch for rabbi, cantor, Jewish educator. Okay, lots of things you can do in your life, but I think you'd be very good at all of those things. So let's talk afterwards. I know somebody we should introduce you to. All right, we're going to turn to page 140 and page 140.
Tzadik katamar yifra ke'erez balvanon iske sheturim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenun v'seiva yeshenim beranim hiu lehagi ki yashar Adonai tzuri velo avatabo.
We'll now rise in body or in spirit as we turn to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Amad yirachirutei ve'amlich malchutei.
Becha yechonu yomechonu chai b'chol Beit Yisrael. Bagada
Zman Kariv Veimeru
Amen.
Yehi
Shmeira b'mevarach le'alam u'le'ad me'ad maya yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha
B'richu
Leila min kol birchata v'shirata
tush bechata v'nechemata tamiran be'alma
v'yimeru.
Amen.
Remain standing for the Baruch Hu on page 146. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. We'll turn now to page 149, and we'll read together in English at the very top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, for whom the evening flows.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבי.
Amen. We'll turn now to page 151. I'll read together in English at the very top of the page. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery.
כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please join us on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם
אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. We're going to turn now to page 157. We'll read together in English at the very top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. As we turn to page 158.
מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני עמו לעולם ועד, אדוני עמו לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל 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 ישראל.
We'll turn now to Hashkivenu on page 160.
השיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים.
Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. We turn now to page 162 at the very top of the page.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת, שבת ויהי נפש.
Now I invite us all to rise in body or in spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164. From that point on, we'll continue silently. As always, please go at your own pace, and when you're finished, if at the end you're still standing, you may be seated.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid teilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. יחיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. יחיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri vegoali. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri vegoali. Yehiu leratzon imrei fi. והגיון ליבי לפניך. יחיו לרצון אמרי פי וגם ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי.
We're going to turn now to page 371 to offer our Mishaberach, our healing prayer for this evening. So I want to just invite everyone to take a few moments to think of the people closest to you who you are praying for tonight, and to hold them in your hearts, in your minds, and as we say here, to extend ourselves also outwards to others that maybe you don't know directly, but the world around us needs a lot of healing. So make space for that as well. And we'll join together with Cantor Kevin in the middle of page 371 to offer our Mishaberach tonight.
Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
So before I introduce our guest speaker, our guest teacher for this Shabbaton, I just want to acknowledge two people sitting next to him, to John and Suzanne Golden, for helping to make this weekend happen. I know you're going to play the humble card and try to slink away. No, truly. So many things that happen here, so many wonderful things that happen here, so many things that have happened to me personally since I've been here, because of the two of you. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for bringing this beautiful opportunity to learn to our community this weekend. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of everyone, thank you. Thank you. So I want to, as I said, introduce, and this is one of the great privileges in my career, to introduce the person who I'm about to share this pulpit with, to speak about, really, the reason all of us are able to be in synagogues in this country, to be able to be proud Reformed Jews, to serve in a Reformed community, are because of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, and because of its head, Dr. Andrew Rayfeld. Dr. Rayfeld is the 10th president of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. A leading political scientist and distinguished communal leader, Dr. Rayfeld's career has bridged both the academic and professional worlds as associate professor of political science at Washington University from 2001 to 2019, and as president and CEO of the Jewish Federations of St. Louis from 2012 to 2019. As HUC-JIR president, Dr. Rayfeld leads the four-campus International Institution of Jewish Higher Education and Seminary for Reform Judaism, which educates leaders to serve the Reform movement and the Jewish people worldwide. It is my honor, my privilege, to welcome Dr. Rayfeld to the Bima to share some words of wisdom and Torah. So
Where should I
it
get?
should here. It should be just a comfortable mic where you can speak normally. But if
what?
not, I'll
Okay.
adjust it up. You just make yourself comfortable.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. What a pleasure and an honor it is to be here. And Rabbi Geffen, thank you for hosting, and with Lou and the team who are here, thank you for your work and welcoming us. It's wonderful to see our cantorial student, Kevin McKenzie, not only tonight, but last night with Lauren Roth, who beautiful, beautiful concert. Really exciting to see you in your culminating moment this coming year, and you have so much to learn and to benefit from them. I want to recognize one other alum who is in the congregation here, Rabbi Val Lieber, an old friend and a new alum, not so new. Well, for me, it's new. It's new. Welcome. And Mazal, what did you say? There you go. If you're old, that makes me, I think, a little older, but... Mazal Tov on the completion of your capital projects to the congregation. It's not easy to do, and I know how difficult it was to be wandering people and embracing the wanderingness of it. The college is particularly moved by the dedication of the social hall to us, and thanks to the recognition and the generous support of members of our board, past and present, who are part of that, Marty and Michelle Cohen, John and Suzanne Golden, I'll mention in just a moment, Mark and Wendy Bitterman, Morris Kramer, and Rabbi Bart and Jane Shallett. It's beautiful to come in and see the partnership between congregations, both leadership as well as the honor. And John and Suzanne, let me just add what Rabbi Geffen said. Thank you for your support for HUC and for everything you're doing for the Jewish people. It's such a pleasure to be here today. We are just back, my wife who's with me, Dr. Miggy Greenberg, and I back from a month in Jerusalem with our students who are celebrating their first year on campus. We have 36 new rabbinical students in the institution, 12 in Israel, in the Israeli rabbinical program, and 24 beginning this year, along with cantorial students and educational students, spend their first year on our campus in Jerusalem. And it's amazing to see them, because it's amazing at this moment. What we try to do is to inculcate in them a sense of Ahavat Israel, a sense of love of the Jewish people, a commitment to Israel and all that it stands for. And in the words of our former provost, Rabbi Michael Marmer, to get both the oi and the wow and the oi of the state of Israel today, the excitement, the miracle that is Israel, even though the oi tends to be so much more present. We have an obligation to do both, to face it and to celebrate the achievement after 75 years, as we have been doing in Israel for over 50 years with our students, requiring their first year to be there, because our commitment to the state, to the country, to the people, and to our purpose of Ahavat Yisrael could not be more important at this moment. But I do recognize how hard that is right now. It's hard for us. It's hard for our students. It's hard for our students who didn't come up in a world where Israel was not only to be celebrated and necessary, but where it was highly normalized, a strong economy, a strong military, none of the threats that so many of us grew up with and understood. It's a new world for them, and that they're making the commitment to be part of this enterprise is testimony to them and an added burden and responsibility for us. So I thought I would take this moment to reflect a little bit about what that tension is about, and particularly at this moment in the service when we're facing the Aleinu prayer. And in just a moment, we will recite it. And the traditional formulation of the prayer is complicated because it combines two parts of what I think is at essence the tension that we're feeling right now about Israel and the Jewish people. It's complicated because it begins by thanking God for separating us as a nation from the other families of the world. Shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adamah. We are literally thanking God, as we will in just a moment, for not making us like the other families of our world, setting us apart to be distinctive and particular. It is unabashed particularism in its purest formation. It is countercultural, if ever there was a countercultural statement in our service today. And it's only the beginning. Because if we stop there, we've missed the point of the prayer. For the prayer culminates not with a celebration of our particular, but with a refrain, Bayom hahu yehieh Adonai echad, that a day will come that shouldn't be so distant, in which justice and peace will rule the entire world. A statement of unabashed universalism, if ever there was one. So if the prayer began triumphantly by declaring our separation from the world, it ends with a fulsome statement of our universal commitments. So clearly, our tradition is telling us there must be a relationship between the two, that somehow by serving our own, we will serve the world. But the reality of our world today belies that view. The particularism that we see all around us does not lead to justice. The white nationalism in the United States, military nationalism throughout in Russia, and nationalism anti-democratic throughout the world. It doesn't feel like this commitment to our own is heading to anything like universal justice. And yet the very value of what we are doing here right now, we are setting ourselves apart as Jews celebrating the Sabbath, our day, our moment. Welcome to anyone who wants to join, but in a very particular way. There's something about what we're doing that enriches our lives and forms an essential part of the flourishing of human life, as any particular identity will. Now, I believe the answer lies in the wisdom of our tradition and our liturgy, that the path to Bayom Hahu, a time that will not be far away of justice, does lie with a commitment as a start to our people and to the particularism, just as that very same commitment to universals must be limiting the particularism that we feel right now. The path to universal justice requires strong particularism, but only if it is limited by our universal ideals. So how exactly does that happen? Particularism aligns our own self-interest with those who are members of our own tribe whom we've never met before, simply because they share the same feature of being one of us. Cultivating a love of our own paradoxically expands our field of empathy so that we start to care about people beyond ourselves, and it helps motivate us to act beyond our own self-interest, helping us view the needs of others as a way of satisfying our own interests. And our tradition and liturgy teach us that the first necessary step towards that is through a deeper commitment to our own. Now, it's curious that rising up and saying that we should embrace a way to empathize with others is often seen as weakness today. Consider that just 40 years ago, in a debate for national office in the United States, two politicians, presidential candidates, fought over who could be more empathetic towards children of illegal immigrants who were fighting for the right to go to public schools. Said the first candidate, when asked should they be allowed that right, the children of illegal immigrants to be sent to public schools, the first candidate said, I'd like to see something done about the immigration problem that would be so sensitive and so understanding about labor needs and human needs that the issue wouldn't come up. The immigrants and their children should get whatever society is giving to their neighbors, said the candidate. We are creating instead a whole society of really honorable, decent, family-loving people that are in violation of the law. And we're exacerbating relations with Mexico while we're doing it. I don't want to see, said the candidate, a whole group of 6- and 8-year-olds being made to feel that they're living outside the law. Referring to the immigrants themselves and making the identity connection that expanded his field of empathy towards others. These are good people, strong people. A part of my own family is Mexican, aligning himself and his interests with those of others. Now, his opponent, you might think, would take issue with this, but no. He agreed and emphasized and dug even deeper. The United States, the second candidate said, hasn't been sensitive enough to our own size and power. Mexico has a problem of 40 to 50% unemployment, and the United States should care about Mexican employment for its own self-interest to reduce hostilities in the region. Quote, rather than talking about putting up a fence, and friends, this was 40 years ago, so please, why don't we work out some recognition of our mutual problems? The candidate encouraged us to empathize with the Mexican people and urged his audience to understand that illegal immigration is the only safety valve right now they had. Now, you're probably wondering, who are these obscure socialist candidates? You probably didn't realize that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren were running back in their youth. But actually, the quote was from other people. The first was George H.W. Bush the elder, and the second was his opponent in the Republican primary, future President Ronald Reagan. Now, the enthusiastic applause of the Republican audience made clear that the recognition of our shared interests between Americans and Mexicans was a winning one. And how different that is, though, from our public discourse today, where expressions of our concern for the weak, of expanding our field of empathy to others, or caring for the immigrant, or even for views that are different than our own, of offering some compassion, are seen as signs of weakness. Who is really championing the idea that we might serve ourselves better if we saw the problem through other people's eyes? Now, one way to align our interests with the others is to make their concerns our own, just like parents do for our own children, by expanding our field of empathy from ourselves to them, expanding a concentric circle of care. Parents tend to feel their children's happiness. They just don't see it and celebrate it. They feel it. They feel their pain and setbacks. You may have heard the saying, you're only as happy as your least happy child. It's so true. And by the way, if you don't have children, you made your parents miserable as well, so you can take some pride in that. The empathy is not rational, but it's a result of parents seeing children as extensions of themselves. We align our self-interest with the self-interest of our family, cultivating our empathy, expanding through a particularistic commitment, our culture of care. Our identity and commitments as Jews, I want to say, functions in the same way, not to narrow our focus, but rather actually to expand it. How many of you feel pride or happiness when you hear that an Academy Award or a Nobel Prize was won by a member of the Jewish people, by a Jew? I know I do. And what's the explanation for that? I mean, why do we feel that way? Most of us have never met these people. We don't know who they are. It is only because they are one of us. There's nothing rational about it. Similarly with feelings of shame, embarrassed to see when somebody of the Jewish origin or a Jew does something that is shameful. And it goes beyond that. Consider the tragedy that unfolded just a year ago in July of 2022 in the Highland Park, Illinois, when 7 people were murdered during another mass shooting in the United States. A few hours into the tragedy, I received a call to learn that one of the victims was Jackie Sondheim of blessed memory. She was a member of the staff of North Shore Congregation Israel, a Reform congregation in Chicago. Because of her affiliation, I experienced an even deeper sadness because I felt connected to her, a sense of loss, and only because I identify as a Jew and a Jewish professional within the Reform movement. The closer my identity was to hers, Reform Jew, Jewish professional, the deeper my feelings were, and I'd never met her. When we empathize with someone else, we feel compelled to participate in their experience, whether celebrating their successes or relieving their suffering. And it's not just the feelings that we have, but these feelings motivate us to action. In the days and the weeks immediately after the Ukraine invasion by Russia, the Jewish community mobilized tens of millions of dollars in aid because so many of us came from that land. So many of us felt committed to the Jews who were on the ground, and that money we knew was not simply for the Jews. It was with and in support of the Jewish immigrants and the Jewish communities there who were migrating, who were acting now as refugees, to support anyone in need. It was a catalyst for that. Now, the idea that group identity promotes solidarity with others is not an original idea. It was a central principle in Benedict Anderson's important work, a book by the name of Imagined Communities. It explored the origins of nationalism. Anderson noted that a strange thing about nationalism is not its bad reputation that it got a lot of people to kill others, but rather that nationalism inspired others to give up their own lives for the sake of the common good. It motivated them to sacrifice themselves and even die for the sake of others they had never met who lived thousands of miles away. And Anderson explained the rise of nationalism in the 19th century was due to the expansion of the printed word, newspapers, the creation of the novel that could allow people to feel connected to experiences so far away. Now, the idea that nationalism might be valuable should be concerning to all of us, for we know well the horrors that nationalism has wrought. Anderson himself was looking at 19th century German society of all places. And that's why national identity, nationalism, and Zionism itself has today become so controversial. It's the challenge for our young people and many of us who are not so young, particularly now around Israel that we care so deeply about. And let's sit with this comfort for a moment. Let's recognize that the brutal Russian invasion of Ukraine was fueled by nationalistic fervor. But even in that case, where we recognize the limits of nationalism, let us also recognize that the mobilization and the defense by the Ukrainians is motivated by that same sense of commitment and nationalism. So how can we cultivate a kind of particularism that achieves what the Ukrainians have achieved, but yet that's limited by justice, but limit its harm? How do we reclaim the insight of the prayer that we are about to recite, that a commitment to the Jewish people is the path to justice for all, avoiding the negative side of that, of xenophobia, of racism and destruction that all too often travel with nationalism? How many of you have grandchildren? How many of you have children? How many of you had parents or have parents? These are relationships where we're prioritizing our own unabashedly, right? When I prioritize my children's welfare, let's be clear, I don't claim they are morally superior than any of your children. I mean, they are smarter, more creative, more interesting than yours, but they're not morally better. My commitment to them causes me to invest specifically in their welfare. It's a kind of domestic nationalism. But this particularism is always, always limited by ethics and justice on how far it goes. For example, if my kids were interested in, ice skating, to use a completely hypothetical example, I might be motivated to invest in skates and in coaches and in taking them hours to meets, but I would limit myself from everything I could do to help them. I would not, for example, kneecap their opponents, although that would help them, especially if I were able to do it without getting caught. And it's so too, it's exactly the same. Any kind of group particularism must be limited by justice, even as we accept its motivational power. As long as we don't treat others who aren't part of our own as morally unworthy because they are not part of our own. This is the path from Aleinu, the particular, to Bayom Hahu, the universal. It is nationalism without kneecapping. I like that too. Thank you for that. It's what I call universalistic particularism, and I believe it's what distinguishes Reform Judaism and, quite frankly, all forms of liberal Judaism, non-fundamentalist forms, from other fundamentalist sects. We cultivate Jewish identity here in this congregation and at HUC and our students because, first of all, it's intrinsically valuable and beautiful and inspiring, but also because it builds our capacity to sacrifice for others and advance justice only if we limit its excesses by those very same aims that we are striving for. When we strengthen the identity as Jews by engaging in activities like this right now, like reading our sacred story each week, which we will tomorrow, we are cultivating a care and concern for 15 million other individuals. We're elevating the values that we're both seeking and limiting our expression, and doing all of it for people that we will never, ever meet. So let me turn to the case of Israel today as I begin to close. Zionism, on which the state of Israel was founded, embodied this spirit of universal particularism. A particularism that aimed at and was limited by universal principles of democracy and justice. As we celebrate 75 years of the miracle of Israel this year, Let's remember and celebrate those ideals. Zionism was a liberation movement. It was a movement aimed at justice and elevating our people. Its aim was to protect the Jewish people and the flourishing of Judaism, and it was explicitly committed to the use of state power to do that and to limit state power by the principles of democracy and justice and human rights for all who fell under its use, Aleinu and Bayom Hahu. Put simply, Zionism aspires to the use of state power for all three of those principles: the security of the Jewish people, the flourishing of Jewish culture, and the promotion of principles of human rights and universal justice. And I want to suggest that the contemporary concern that so many of us feel right now, the concern that our students are coming in and wanting to recapture and strengthen their Jewish identity in Israel, but the concerns for what's happening those are not concerns to abandon Zionism and abandon these values, not at all, nor to run or flee from Israel and its story, but rather a recognition that its three principles are being compromised. In its proposals to reform the judiciary or to restrict the kind of Judaism that's legally permitted, and in many other areas, the government, it seems to many, may be undermining the core principles of Zionism. It is making the Jewish people less secure. The concern is that it's narrowing Judaism rather than promoting its flourishing. And the concern is that it's violating Zionism's commitments to democracy, human rights, and justice. With these principles in mind, it's not too much to say that Israel is confronting its own Zionism and perhaps being governed by the most anti-Zionist government in its 75-year history, because it's dismantling the core of the Zionist principles. I believe we need to reclaim and reaffirm Zionism and the State of Israel, the principles that it stands for. The commitment to the Jewish national project, a kind of limited just nationalism. And here, who can't be inspired? Who can't but be inspired by the decisions of the current protest movement, which are unparalleled in a nation like in any democratic nation. Even, by the way, in the United States, they're unparalleled. The numbers of people going out and marching, and anyone that tells you that Israel's not a democratic state, point to those demonstrations, point to the freedoms that people are enjoying. But those protesters are embracing the flag. They're bracing the symbols of Jewish nationalism. They're singing Hatikva, Israel's national anthem. It's a core feature of what they are doing. Imagine in America if the rise of white nationalism today was met with an embrace of the founding values, not the limits that Lord knows as a nation we haven't fully lived up to, but the values for which those symbols and those national ideas stood for. In this way, Zionism is a pathway from Va'anachnu to V'ne'emar. If we have any hope for the preservation of the Jewish state, that it continue its path of strength and vitality, we must work to reclaim its commitment to Zionism by showing our own as well. HUC is an international institution with global impact, preparing hundreds of rabbis, cantors, educators, nonprofit managers to lead and expand the field of motivational empathy for all members of our community. Our leaders are building vital communities in North America, Israel, and over 30 countries around the world. Through this work, our students are deploying the beauty and wisdom of our tradition to strengthen Jewish identity, a commitment to the Jewish people in Israel, celebrating with people in times of joy, supporting them in times of sorrow, and helping individuals live lives of meaning and purpose, where Judaism is essential to a life well lived. So let us embrace our particularistic group identities and the true principles of Zionism, to cultivate our empathy for others through our particular commitments and bring justice to the world. Let us ensure that the partiality we seek aims always at and is limited by those very principles, for that remains its ultimate purpose. And in this way, Jewish peoplehood, nationalism, and even liberal Zionism of the founders of the state can indeed be a light for all. Aleinu and Bayom Hahu. Thank you again for your support of this sacred community and all you're doing to support our graduates and students in the field. Shabbat Shalom.
Any chance you want to come back in a couple of weeks for the high holidays? I was just going to say, I think you have other commitments. Truly. Brilliant and never a more important introduction to the prayer that we are about to recite. So I'll invite us all to rise, to turn back to our prayer books to page 586 at the bottom of the page, Aleinu L'Shabech. Aleinu L'Shabech L'Adon HaKol, Latet Gedula Le'yotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kegoye Ha'aratzot, Velo Samanu Kemishpechot Adama, Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Vanachnu Korim, Umishtachavim Umodim, Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, page 591. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushemo echad. I'll ask those in mourning, those observing yahrzeit, to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We first remember those who have passed in our community in recent months. Bert Bitterman, Morty Schwatzky, Beverly Deshevsky, Saul Ginsberg, Jerry Goldsmith, Dr. Sam Gould, Sandy Greenwald, Dorothy Klein, Sean Leibowitz, Marvin Schreier, Sandy Slip, Barbara Strasser, David Weinstein, Rita Weitzman, and Yael Zerdar. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Simon Abraham, Charles Danoff, Zita Danoff, Phyllis Davis, Lazarus Goldsmith, William Hesse, Clarence Kopp, Rebecca Lifshitz, Michael Littman, Dorothy Metzger, Harry Nevins, Joseph Palladino, Dora Rossick, Jean Rubin, Samuel Rubin, Dr. David Rudman, Bonnie Sawicki, Martha Schlossberg, David Schulman, Nathan Spitzer, Leo Swerdlick, Sidney Throne, David Warner, Jack Weiner, Martin Weinstein, and Irving Zaretsky. In addition to those names that we just read, is anyone else saying Kaddish for anyone this evening that we did not mention? I'll invite the mourners to join with me on page 598, and I'll invite those that it's your custom to rise as well. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach la'alam u'li'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemayim v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Okay, please be seated. Shabbat shalom, everyone. So I want to begin. There's a lot of thank yous, and a lot of thank yous between you and some very delicious food and some wonderful opportunity to celebrate our Shabbat. But the reason that we are going to be able to enjoy that food and enjoy that company is because of a wonderful person who I sadly never got a chance to meet. This evening is in memory of Nancy Spitzer, Nancy Deinitz Spitzer, I should say. And as I look at more to know what Nancy meant to you, what it meant to Matthew and to Douglas and to the entire family, when I first, again, met all of you, it was too close to that moment. So, Rafi, when you came in, you changed that, right? You brought a lot of love that was really needed at that moment. It's a special thing. It's a truly special thing. And it's especially wonderful to know that forever, that her name will be associated with the front steps of this building. They no longer function in the way they once did. You won't enter through those steps. But in our tradition, the language we use is aliyah, the idea of elevating ourselves, of taking steps up to being in a better place. So to know, certainly, that there is a heaviness to tonight, but the choice to take that heaviness and to turn it into celebration, to share this with all of us, to bring community together. This is really what it's all about. So, Mort, I thank you, I thank your whole family, and Judy, I want to thank you as well, because you worked very hard to make all of the things happen behind the scenes. And I know, again, how much you mean to the whole family and to Mort, especially in this moment. And to all of Mort's friends and all of you, we again hope that you will stick around and to be able to share in the other wonderful joy of this weekend, which, as you heard, is to learn from one of the great minds of our people, one of the great minds in our country. And as I said, without any hesitation, make no mistake, you walk into a Reform synagogue in this country, you better understand that it does not happen without the Hebrew Union College. 100+ years of training, 100+ years of giving our people direction, inspiration, challenging us when we need to be challenged, holding us up when we need to be held. These are things that we have a tendency to take for granted, especially these days. So all the more reason that we have to celebrate weekends like this, to celebrate our community's connection to HUC, and to support it in its work in our own ways. Because without the rabbis, without the educators, without the cantors, without the nonprofit professionals, there is no synagogue. And without a synagogue, there is no Jewish life. So to celebrate all of these things today is a privilege. To be even a small part of it is a joy. So I thank you all for being here tonight. And I will welcome you in just a few moments to join us next door, as I said, to celebrate, again, not with the joy of, just the joy of eating, although that will be delicious, right? But the real joy of the night, which is to share together what it means to be part of this community, to part of this family. So with that, a few other quick announcements. First is to join us tomorrow morning for services beginning at 10 o'clock here at the temple, and then, of course, to join us for a Torah study in which Dr. Rayfeld will share some very, very, very important ideas as well. We welcome all of you to join us here in person, ideally online, if not possible. And again, that is services at 10 o'clock tomorrow, and then, of course, a Torah study beginning at 12 o'clock as well. And I want to, again, thank the Golden family for helping to make that happen. And I want to thank Melissa Greenberg, who's sitting there as well, who is part of that story that I just said, right? That the institution needs lots of different kinds of leaders. And Melissa works her toches off, as they say, to make it work day in, day out. So, Melissa, it's been a privilege to get to work with you and to know you. And we hope this will be, again, something that will happen year after year after year here in this community. Speaking again of tomorrow, Saturday night, our last Hamish Havdalah at Long Beach. I can't believe it. Maybe he'll do some more. I don't know. Winter Hamish Havdalah. Join student cantor Kevin, 6:30 tomorrow evening, Long Beach. If you don't know about this, maybe can still, I don't know. Bonnie's giving me kind of the wink. She's a very nice person. We can find Bonnie. She's got her hand. You can join her there. Sunday, the Rosh Chodesh's annual picnic at Myra's house on Shelter Island. Speak to Marilyn Zaretsky if you were able to join. Thursday, coffee with me. 5 o'clock on Thursday, challah making with Leah. 7 o'clock, our movie in person with a virtual Q&A after, the winter journey about Jewish musicians during the Holocaust, and all of that as well. So enough from me, enough talking. I hope I didn't miss anything of great importance. If I did, I apologize. But I'm going to ask a favor. We're going to do Kiddush and Motzi, but I'm hoping maybe Mort and Douglas, since you didn't, no, Douglas just shaking it off. Mort, you want to help us out? Judy's going to, well, you can't just keep pointing down the row, otherwise Myra's going to be up here, you know. That's okay, fine too. You can also stay where you are, you can come up. Judy, you want to come up and do Motzi for us? Okay, I'll do Kiddush, you do Motzi, don't worry. So we're going to turn in our prayer books, and by magic, Cantor Kevin, this is, again, one of the classes we take at HUC, is teaching us where to find the Motzi and the Kiddush. Well, rise as we turn to page 123 for Kiddush. And Judy and Mort, if you guys will join us safely up here on the bima. Again, page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilhanu, zikaron lemahaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'chata, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen. L'chaim. We got better stuff for you next door, for sure. And if you would do us the honor of the motzi, we'll help you out. Don't worry. She knows. Of course she knows it. I'm talking about you.
Yeah,
No,
I need help.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. All right, you have to eat it. You said the blessing. You got to eat it. Actually, Rafi, you want some challah? You like challah? Okay, come here. Come here. You got a whole one. No. Here you go. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Please come next door. Come next door. Let's go. Hey, you want to say hello? Shabbat, 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 Shabbat.
She's much better trained than I am. You're much better trained than I am.
You guys. Rafi. What's that? No way. Can I get one? You believe you
No idea. That's not a question I've actually asked. It's highly possible. You definitely should. Yeah. Well, I know he's done stuff like this, so like it's very possible. He crushes, he says if it's kosher or not here, so that's all I need. Yeah. Let me know, I'm curious. It's my fine.
Have you ever been to Big Ol' Offstage? Really? And I was going to say, no, you better. I like that. My office is, there's two doors over there. One way or the other. One way or the other. I'm just sorry that my dog's not here. That's an amazing thing. Oh, I'm so glad you did that. So maybe next year you'll let me know. Maybe, you can try your eye, and I'll send it to her and I'll check it out. My daughter goes to the Y camp and we're open-minded. And if there's cool people there, that goes to show will you be back next summer? So, I forget, you guys are still in video. Are you in? Yeah. Oh, great. Oh, yes. That's better. So our previous town manager up there, Josh. I just did a wedding not so long ago. He was a couple years ahead of me. He is the single most talented person in my entire life. I once told him one man because he led a service at school where he was just sitting in his chair. And he had 7 instruments and he just picked one up at it was special. And then Rabbi Tamar, I worked in LA when she was still at Beck. Was 1 year that I lived there. So she's a very special artist. Singing on her special, but she is a special human being. And then I remember during COVID, she was giving these like Zoom meditations in the morning. And at that point I was waking up like, I wasn't sure what day it was. I didn't even know where I was. And she's like leading this deep meditation. These are the people I aspire to be someday when I grow up. That's really good. So you are in excellent hands. I have it all because I know you guys. I don't know about the rest of it, but I'm going to treasure this picture. Really, truly. I'm going to get a frame for it and put it in my office. And really, thank you again for just being the wonderful person you are. And promise me that you'll come back and visit us, okay? Excellent. And I'll see you next door. I'm not going anywhere. That's excellent. Well, I won't steal you away because you've got a great place to be. But otherwise, if I could, I would love for you to have your bat mitzvah here. That would be glorious. But I can't steal you away. It's not right to do that. It would be unfair. But I'll tell you what. When it comes to that time, when you do your bat mitzvah is there. And you come either after the bat mitzvah or before it, and give you a special blessing. Deal? Okay, I'll take it. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I really wouldn't think those things. Seriously. Anyway. Oh, for sure. I would love that. I'd rather see the folks in Manhattan, it's what they call Brooklyn. I know very little about it, but here it's cool. Here's good food. That's the reason to go anyway. Speaking of food, we must be David is usually confused for David because That's it. That's exactly it. You want to be around it. And it's calming experience. The girls are amazing. Like, they're It's an interesting thing. Geography matters so much. So much. Yeah, exactly. It changes everything. Yeah. Oh, yeah.